Hi, my name is Doris. Thank you for coming today. Today we're going to be learning the 3 basic methods of making quick breads, and we'll be using one of those methods to make a vegan, gluten-free pastry for you to take home. We're going to be using the commonly accepted culinary practices of sanitation, mise en place, proper technique, baking, and cleanup. After we have made our quick bread, we will be having a discussion period where we'll be tasting other products made with other methods, and we'll be discussing the differences between those different methods. So ground rules. It's very important that we have our hair restraint pulled back. We are going to wash our hands before we start. Sanitation is very important. We don't want any cross-contamination, and that's something we'll talk about later because we're using specialized products today. We have a first aid kit, just in the event that we might need it, but I know we'll be okay. All right, now that we've all washed our hands, restrained our hair, and put our aprons on, we are ready to bake. So today we're making a muffin method. That means we are doing wet ingredients in one bowl, dry ingredients in another bowl, and then we're going to combine them together. That is the muffin method in a nutshell. I know. So what I want you to do is we're going to learn how to use the scale. So let's put our biggest bowl on the scale. And we're going to do our dry ingredients first. So is everybody's scale on?
Yes.
Okay. And now push the tare button because we want all the readouts to say 0. Okay, everybody on 0?
Yep. 0, yes.
How are you doing over there, Brendan?
Good.
Okay,
0.
great. All right, so we're going to be using, since we're making a vegan, gluten-free product today, we're going to be using brown rice flour. Rice flour comes in 2 different styles. We have brown rice flour and white rice flour. We're using brown today because it's more nutritious and it works best in this recipe. So I'm going to have you weigh 10 ounces of brown rice flour in your bowl.
A little too much.
All right, so just take your little tablespoon down there,
Okay.
and you can actually put it right back in the bag. Since there's nothing else in there, you don't have to worry about cross-contamination. We're worried about cross-contamination because normal or traditional recipes for muffins, we use a wheat flour. Wheat flour contains gluten. Some people are gluten intolerant, and so therefore they cannot eat a traditional recipe. So we're using the rice flour, which does not have gluten in it. Other flours that don't have gluten are corn and oats. They do make an oat flour, and I actually use that in a recipe. So now we all have 10 ounces?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So the next ingredient is turbinado sugar. So I would like you to put 7 ounces. First of all, before you do that, we need to tare. So push your tare button. We all have zeros, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's weigh out 7 ounces of turbinado sugar. Turbinado sugar is a form of sugar. It is less refined, and it has more nutrients in it than brown sugar. This should not be confused with brown sugar because brown sugar is white sugar that's been highly processed and has molasses added back into it. So this is a very different product. There you go. So now these are the only 2 ingredients that we're going to be weighing in the dry ingredients. The rest of them are going to be measured. I'm going to show you how to measure correctly. If I can have the spoons, please. We're going to put our spoon into your container. Got it?
Yes.
Great. We're going to put our spoon in there, and we're going to get a big spoonful, and then we're going to take the level side of our knife and just level it right off. Just like that, okay? So I'm going to put that in there, all right? So we need 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, and then I want you to do the same thing with the baking soda. So that was 1 teaspoon there.
Does it matter which goes in first?
It does not. I want 1½ teaspoons of each. Great, that's exactly right. So we use baking powder and baking soda in our products to get the lift that we need. We're going to rely on a chemical reaction. There you go, Brandon. We're going to rely on a chemical reaction to raise our product. baking powder is double acting. That means that it will rise twice during the process. First process is rising during the addition of the liquid, and the second rising is during the heating process. That's why we call it double acting. So if you look on the container of your baking powder, it will say either double acting or single acting. So now we want to add some spice to this, give it a little flavor. So we're going to put in 1 tablespoon of cinnamon using the same method with a leveling of the spoon, and 1.5 teaspoons of ginger. So 1 tablespoon of cinnamon and 1.5 teaspoons of ginger. Excellent. I see you're catching on really quickly to that whole leveling thing there. Great. Okay, so since this product is vegan, we are using soy milk today. We're using soy milk because people who are vegan, practice a vegan lifestyle, don't eat dairy. And there are a variety of reasons for that. It might be that they're lactose intolerant, or there are other things that they can't eat, have other food allergies. So we're going to be using a soy milk. Okay, so now that we have all our dry ingredients in there, let's whisk them together. You have your whisk, just put it in and stir. You're combining your ingredients because you want all your leavening agents properly dispersed throughout the flour mixture. Now we're going to set our dry ingredients aside. And we're going to weigh out our wet ingredients, just exactly as we did for the dry ingredients. So we're going to be going back to the tare. So does everybody remember how to tare their bowls properly?
Yep.
Great. All right, so I would like you to put in 12 ounces of soy milk. This recipe is very sensitive because we don't have the wheat flour in there. We don't have the gluten structure that we need to hold it up. So that's why we are being exact with our measurements. Because if we don't have the gluten development that you find in the protein, the gluten is a protein in wheat flour. If you don't have that gluten development, it's not going to hold its shape. It's going to want to sink down. And don't be alarmed if your pastry does sink down a little bit. It's okay. We're going to make it work. Okay? All right. Now we're going to do 3.5 ounces of oil. We're using canola oil. We don't want to use olive oil because it adds a different flavor. It's open.
What?
Yeah, it's open.
Yeah. It was oily. How
Yes.
many ounces?
We want 3.5 ounces. So canola oil, again, is a very neutral flavored oil. And it's also fits in with the vegan lifestyle. So the final ingredient that we're going to use is vinegar. I know that sounds like an odd choice of ingredients for a pastry, but what we're needing here, since we don't have eggs in here, we're going to need lift that is going to be provided by acid. The vinegar has acid that's going to react with the baking soda and the baking powder, and we're going to get the lift that we need in the oven. Remember I talked about how we have baking powder double acting, and one's with liquid, one's with heat? Well, the liquid is here, and that chemical reaction is going to make it lift. So why don't we're going to need 1.5 tablespoons of vinegar. So we can start, this is all that we're going to need the scale for, so we don't have to worry about messing up our numbers. So we're going to do 1.5 tablespoons of vinegar. And you can just pour that right on top. So this is the muffin method in a nutshell here. You can see that we have 1 bowl of wet, 1 bowl of dry. We're going to whisk them together. So when you get your vinegar all ready to go there, just whisk together. Yes.
Oh, you got that.
That's okay. That's good. And it doesn't really come together because oil and vinegar don't mix. They don't like each other, but they're going to come together in this recipe when we're done. So we're all whisked together. All right. The next step, before we combine them, we want to make sure that our pans are ready to go. We have the liners in there. but we want to add some more nutrition to this. So, if you want, I have some plumped raisins here, I have some pecans, and I have some currants. If you'd like to put them in the bottom of your pans, please feel free to put in whatever you like. If you don't want to put anything in, that's okay too. I prefer to use fresh blueberries. If fresh fruit's in season, I will use that. But I think raisins are a good choice. Currants are good, and if you like nuts, I toasted those earlier. All right, so we're putting them in now because this batter does not support add-ins. They will sink to the bottom. And so in order for us to get an even amount in every cup, we're just doing it ahead of time. We're going to put our wet ingredients into dry, always wet ingredients into dry. And once you do that, you're going to see a foaming action happen, which is exactly what's supposed to happen.
Should I go?
Go. Everybody in the pool. There you go. Oh, Christopher started mixing it up a little bit there.
Yeah, we do sound better. Just raisins, they do sound better.
Okay, great. Great. So we're going to stir, stir, stir. We want to stir enough so that we get the lumps out, but not so much that we get all that
And then when it's set into dry?
wet into dry, yes. So we want it thoroughly mixed, so we don't want to lose all that leavening action that we just spent all that time trying to create. Okay. So now that we have everything all mixed together, we see all those bubbles forming in there?
Mm-hmm.
See how it's all, yeah, that's our chemical reaction between the vinegar and the leavening agents. We're going to use our little scoops that we have at each station, and we're going to use that to get the same amount into every cup. So this is for, whoops, I'm sorry. This is for making sure that every serving is exactly the same. This is the best way to transfer liquids from one place to another, and also to have the same size serving. And we want them about 3/4 of the way full. You can just sort of eyeball that. There you go.
Or a little more on that one.
That's okay, yeah, a little bit more. Great. I'll take that. There you go.
Can I ask how
Yes.
you plump a raisin?
You just soak it in a little bit of whatever liquid you like. I happen to do this in hot water. Boiling water for about 15 minutes, just till it gets nice, they absorb it.
Okay.
If you want to do it in, say, rum or orange juice or whatever it is that you might be using for your recipe, whatever liquid you would like, you just heat it up for a little bit. I popped it in the microwave just for a few seconds.
So it really only works with a warm liquid?
Yes, look at this. Everybody just made a vegan, gluten-free coffee cake muffin using the Muffin Method. Excellent. If you'd like, we can bring this to the oven.
You ready to
Yep,
go?
I'm ready to go. We're going to bake this for about 15 minutes or so at 350 degrees. So now that you've had a chance to sample the different quick breads, what are your impressions? I mean, the vegan pastry compares to how does it compare to the muffin?
It was light, and you could taste the ingredients. You could taste the cinnamon. It was delicious.
Great, great. So if you know somebody maybe who can't have gluten for whatever reason, or maybe is a vegan, that might be a nice option for them. Great. And you, Anne, what sort of things did you notice about your pastries there? If you were comparing them a little bit.
The vegan muffin seemed to just fall apart because it's so light, and I was rather skeptical, I will say, about the vinegar, because I thought I would taste vinegar in here, and there's absolutely nothing whatsoever.
Great. Yeah,
so,
good.
It's marvelous.
Good, good.
The most significant difference between the two different muffins, the coffee cake and the muffin, is the texture. While the regular muffin is really dense and cakey, The other one almost melts in your mouth. It's very interesting. Kind
And
of a
so when
peculiar
you're
texture.
looking at what we should be comparing is the vegan muffin
Mhm.
or vegan coffee cake with the cornbread because they're made with the same method. So, but you can tell a significant difference. I see you're eating the cornbread. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
I'm guessing it probably has something to do with the dairy that we talked about with the cornbread that makes it different than the vegan cake, and I think that's why we see it didn't crumble as much as the vegan muffin.
And the
when we took
egg
it apart.
and the gluten, because the gluten is what binds it together in the dairy cornbread. Even though the dairy cornbread does have cornmeal in it, which is another thing that is gluten free. But it also has the flour, the traditional wheat flour, which is developing the gluten, which holds it and supports the lift on that. So you're exactly right. So I think everybody did a fantastic job today. It looks like you're all enjoying it.
Very much.
Great, great. We don't have to be vegan or gluten free to enjoy the product. So I think we've all learned something. So wonderful. What's your favorite?
Actually, the gluten free.
Really? Great. Good. Good. Well, ours are just ready to come out of the oven. So thank you all very much for coming to class today. It was a pleasure having you, and I'm happy that we've all learned something new and had a good time, and I enjoyed it very much, and I very much appreciate you being here. So go out into the world and enjoy.